don't classify a farmer as a business, we call them a farm. We don't call multiple family housing rental apartments from a zoning or a land use standpoint. We call it multiple family housing. That's what planners, planning commissions, zoning ordinances, master plans do. We don't call senior housing senior business communities. We call them senior residential communities, senior housing. Is it a business? Sure, it operates as a business, just as a farm operates a business, just as some of you may operate a business out of your home. Okay, those are not businesses, they're residences. The primary use of the land is a residence. It's where people live. Okay? It's really, in my opinion, and I think Mr. Folkrod had the nail right on the head in terms of the standards. How does rental versus ownership affect those things? It doesn't. That's why you don't see it in your zoning ordinance. That's why you don't see it in your master plan. The idea of social engineering is so prevalent in that kind of a connotation, you don't want to go there.
You don't.
That's a no-win scenario. I've had one client in my history of working in this profession that wanted to go there, and it got really, really ugly over time, and it finally got dropped.
Do you know of any assisted living, retirement community, anywhere in the state that is classified under their zoning ordinance as a business?
Not that I know of.
I'm not asking if there is one, I'm asking if you know of it.
There may be one. I don't know of any, but they're always in to my knowledge, in a residential classification. Whether it's in a master plan or a zoning ordinance or both. It's a residential use of land. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that clarification? Does that impact anybody's view? It supports my view, so I can't say it impacts it. Not ready to state it yet.
Next item.
Next item, traffic on this issue. What are your thoughts or concerns regarding the traffic of this proposal versus something else? Now, this is not a character discussion or rental versus own. This is we have traffic studies. We have analysis that, if I could summarize, it says the density proposal in this Blossom Ridge, the increase in density proposed in Blossom Ridge would increase the overall traffic by 24% on a daily basis, according to the traffic study, but would decrease traffic at peak times, AM and PM. What are your thoughts as commissioners on the issue of traffic? Is that a good trade-off, a bad trade-off, or what?
The one thing that concerns me that the residents brought up is the high school is right next to there. And I've been down the Adams Road in the morning and in the evening, and that is where you have a lot of traffic and accidents. And I think the fact that it's a 24-hour cycle, that it's non-peak, is a good thing. You know, as opposed to if this was just a regular subdivision, they're going to work just like everybody else. They're coming back just at the same time. And Jim's very familiar with, Volkrad's very familiar with traffic studies, and then I think you would see, you know, it go from, I don't know what it's at right now, a C to an F or an E, because of those 2 hours in the morning and in the evening. So I think the fact that it's spread out is a plus.
That if it was 61 single-family homes where that traffic is less by 24% than currently proposed, but all that was concentrated at the, or it was a heavier concentration at the AM and PM, you would be there as a negative impact.
Yes.
Anybody agree or disagree with Mr. Edwards?
I agree with Mark. People's difficulty with traffic is more severe in peak hours. That's why traffic studies are done with breaking those hours out during the day, because That's the important, impactful time of the day. So to have a lesser impact during the most difficult and important time of the day is good.
And we know that they're not going to do, from what I've gathered, they're not going to do anything about the road commission and changing that road at all, so.
Well, the road commission has said that there's nothing required.
That's what I
Nothing
say,
needed.
they know they're
They
not going
recommend.
to. I disagree with them on that. When I go there, down there at the busy times with the high school kids and all, I don't agree with that, but there would be less traffic at different times.
I think it's been made very clear that as you proceed south down Adams past this point, it just degrades horribly all the way to Bergen. But that's outside this township. When you say, when you proceed down there, when the high school is, you know, they're coming or going on the high school, it's a mess. It's a mess on a Friday night when they have a football game.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I try to avoid that then too, but that's just the nature of it, and that's not even in Oakland Township, and that's not with any development here. But if you put 61 single-family homes here instead of this, remember this, the evaluation is not this versus leave it the way it is, do nothing. It's this versus put 61 single-family homes there. If you put 61 single-family homes there, you have more traffic during the AM and PM peak times, period. And so I guess that's really the question. And I would agree with Mr. Edwards and Mr. Folkrod that I would rather see the increased traffic, which is inevitable with the development of this parcel. I would rather see that increase in traffic spread throughout the day than see it in the AM and PM peak times.
I have a tendency to agree, but I remind myself of two things. One, this is a study, it is not reality. Something else may evolve over time. And number two, I'm not deciding here on the PRRO and 61 homes. I am not making that decision. There are probably a variety of developments that may happen here. The propensity, we have one of them in front of me. I don't know that Plan B is 61 homes. There may be other alternatives, other plans, should this one not progress on. So I remind myself of that as well. I don't know that 61 homes, as we see it, would be the marketing way to go. Don't know. Cannot read the minds of those who would try to develop this under any scenario. So I remind myself of those two things.
No, but as a longtime member of the Planning Commission, Janine, in your experience, would you expect an alternative proposal, a Plan B, as you said, on this parcel, if not 61 single-family homes? Do you think that any alternative or plan would come in showing a density or traffic equivalent impact that would be less than this one or more than this one? Less than or more than 61
I'm not going to
family?
hypothesize because I've seen in my experience sitting here, many different things happen that I could not have predicted, but I hear what you're saying.
So you can envision a lower impact use of this 41 or 43 acres parcel? You can envision that?
I won't rule it out.
But ordinance has us, instructs us to make our decision about this
Oh, I hear you.
project based on the existing zoning when we're
You're right.
at the approval.
You're right, I'm not here to design, I'm here to, you know, again, factor these things in.
Well, that's a good
You
point.
can't
Think about it.
That's a good point, because you can't say a plan B.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I can't say a plan B, you're very right. But in our discussion, we sound like, well, we're either going to have this or we're going to have that.
Well, that's what Jim's saying, you have to consider.
Well, the ordinance instructs us as to what we can do here, or else our hands would be totally tied if our instruction was to select a development that would in all cases be better than anything that could happen in the future. So I think it's your duty as a planning commissioner to look at it versus the single-family development.
Amy, you have any comment?
I'm not to the point of making a final decision on the traffic. I do agree that the study's been verified, but my reality is also different, as maybe many of yours, when you travel peak times, any times. It's all peak time when you hit Adams Road. And I, in fact, was traveling on Dutton East and West, and It just struck me coming off of Lapeer Road, the additional traffic that is coming into Rochester now, east to west on Dutton Road. So I know the road commission, I know the studies, I know it's conforming, but my reality is different than that. So I'm not ready to finalize my decision on the traffic.
Okay. 5 minutes to talk about the PRRO eligibility and what criteria commissioners feel to be important there. Anybody want to opine on that?
Well, we need to discuss whether it's eligible and that it offers site-specific conditions that are more strict and limiting than would otherwise ordinarily apply under the proposed residential district. So we have heard in the proposal that, and in Mr. Nix's analysis, that the proposed density is more strict and limiting than the underlying zone because it's less dense than would be allowed, ordinarily permitted under the proposed zoning, the RM. We had that analysis right from the get-go. The numbers got fairly thin because we were dealing with the 41 acres versus the RM district would require as many as something in the neighborhood of 38, 39 acres. So from a very strict point of view, it is proposed to be more strict and limiting. But I would go further than that and say that it's also more strict and limiting because the plan has more open space than is required in the underlying zoning. We have less open space with an RM development on the property.
Put back up there, just get the rest of the commissioners in here. The statement that Mr. Folkrod made, which echoes things the applicant has said, which Mix has pointed out, is that the density is lower as proposed than it would be under the proposed RM zoning district requirements. If you built what you could build there, it would require, I think they were Larry's calculations that said 38 or 9 acres, something along that, I don't know the exact number. And there are more acreage, there's more acreage here than that. Even when we asked the question as a commission, what if the road commission 60-foot right away, that was taken into consideration there. They have more acreage with this proposal than they need to under the proposed RM district. But I'm not convinced that the commissioners all see it that way. Am I wrong?
This is a tough one.
They're all tough to me.
I know.
That's why you're sitting here.
Well,
It is hard to explain.
As Mr. Folkrod points out and reminds all of us very clearly, it's not how you feel, but we have to look at the standard as it's stated in the zoning ordinance. We're not making this stuff up. Okay? The applicant has applied for an RM zoning, which allows him to do the type of development that he wants. And the ordinance so clearly states, how is what he's proposing more strict and limited than what he could do under what he's proposing into RM zone? And what he's offering is something less dense than what he could do under the proposed RM zoning. It has nothing to do with the 61 lots or the existing residential zoning that's there. The standard in our zoning in the PRRO that we have to judge this by is what he's proposed in his rezoning versus what he's going to do. It's really pretty easy. And it was one of the early, I think it was